Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling one of the most pressing, complex, and honestly alarming challenges of our time. It's a resource we literally use every single day, usually without a second thought, yet its absence can bring entire modern cities to a complete grinding halt. I'm talking about water. Specifically, we're going to unpack the severe global water crisis, and we'll be putting a deep, structured focus on the situation that's rapidly unfolding right now in India. We've got some fascinating data to get through, so let's unpack exactly what's happening beneath the surface.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's the ultimate paradox, isn't it? We live on a blue planet. If you just look at a globe, 71% of the Earth's surface is covered in water. So it really begs the question, if we're practically floating in this stuff, why on earth are we running dry? Well, this breakdown immediately puts our reality into perspective. A massive 97% of the planet's water is ocean water. It's salty, it's not potable, and we just can't use it directly for drinking or agriculture. That leaves us with a tiny 3% sliver of fresh water. And here's the kicker. Even within that 3%, a huge chunk of it is locked away in ice caps and glaciers. So the accessible freshwater we actually have to survive on, it's incredibly limited. Which brings us to this massive number, 50%. Right now, half of the entire global population relies completely on a single, rapidly depleting resource for their drinking water, and that's groundwater. This is the water stored deep underground, soaking in rocks and soil, kind of like a giant geological sponge. It's our hidden warehouse of water, and globally, we're draining it way faster than nature can possibly replenish it. So here is our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start by looking at a planet running dry, zoom in on India's severe water deficit, check out ground zero during the Chennai drought, break down the root causes, and finally wrap up with how we're fighting back with real solutions. Section 1. A planet running dry. From day zero scenarios in Cape Town to severe water rationing in Tehran, the global baseline for fresh water is proving to be incredibly fragile.
Now, when we look at India, the crucial point is this stark contrast right here. India supports a massive population of over 1.4 billion people, yet the country possesses only 4% of the world's freshwater resources. That is a staggering mismatch. You have one of the highest populations on the planet relying on a tiny fraction of the necessary resources, and that makes the country uniquely vulnerable to even the slightest shifts in water availability.
Section 2, India's severe water deficit. This quote is a stark warning, and it comes directly from a 2019 report by the government think tank Niti Aayog. By 2030, India's water demand will exceed supply by a factor of 2. Just let that sink in for a second. Within just a few short years, the demand for water is projected to be double what's actually available. The report also warned that an estimated 40% of the country could eventually lack access to drinking water altogether. No way around it, that is absolutely terrifying. Section 3, Ground Zero, Chennai drought. So what does a statistic like that actually look like in visceral human terms?
Let's look at this timeline. In December 2018, the main lake supplying Chennai was completely full. By April 2019, satellite imagery showed the water rapidly receding. And by June 2019, literally just 6 months later, the lake had dried up completely. Drops in reservoir levels left them at an unthinkable 0.2% capacity. This was a crisis that paralyzed a city of roughly 9 million people. IT companies had to tell their employees to just work from home, restaurants and hotels were forced to shut their doors entirely, and hundreds of people waited in sweltering lines for hours just to fill up empty buckets.
And when a resource vanishes like that, scarcity skyrockets prices. Back in 2018, getting a water tanker in Chennai cost about 1,500 rupees. By the peak of the 2019 crisis, that exact same tanker cost 6,000 rupees. For a poorer or lower middle-class family needing a tanker a month, paying upwards of 10,000 rupees just to have water is completely crippling. This desperation fueled the rise of so-called tanker mafias, private owners smuggling water and exploiting vulnerable people. The social instability even led to tragic, deadly violence between neighbors just fighting over access to neighborhood borewells.
And the thing is, this crisis extended far beyond Chennai. Over in the city of Latur, the sudden depletion of 90% of their water sources triggered a massive health emergency. Hospitals were literally unable to perform surgery safely because they didn't have clean water. And the ecological impact? Equally profound. In areas like Medur and Madurai, the drought dried up natural forest water bodies, forcing desperate wild animals, we're talking elephants, tigers, and spotted deer, to actually infiltrate human cities and villages just searching for something to drink.
Section 4. The root causes explained. Obviously, we need to ask, how did it get this bad?
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the systemic issue. Check this out. In 2010, the United States extracted 112 billion cubic meters of groundwater. India extracted an astonishing 251 billion. India is the world's largest user of groundwater by a massive margin. There has been this continued, largely unmonitored exploitation that caused groundwater levels across the country to plummet by 61% between 2007 and 2017 alone. So where is all that water going? Well, a staggering 89% of the groundwater extracted in India is used for irrigation and agriculture. During the Green Revolution of the 1960s, farmers became incredibly dependent on groundwater to sustain high crop production. But the major problem is that many still rely on traditional, highly inefficient flooding methods for irrigation, which just leads to massive amounts of water loss and evaporation. On top of that, you have these compounding factors multiplying the agricultural burden. Climate change is a massive one, causing delayed and far more sporadic monsoons, which India relies on heavily. And even when that rain finally does fall, due to poor urban planning and the loss of natural ponds, India manages to capture a mere 8% of its annual rainfall. Then add in the severe pollution plaguing vitally important rivers like the Ganges, which suffer from untreated sewage and industrial waste, leaving vast stretches completely undrinkable. Finally, infrastructural vulnerability just deepens the wound. A perfect example. In 2016, New Delhi faced a severe water crisis when social unrest and demonstrations by the Jat tribe actually resulted in physical damage to the Munnak Canal, cutting off a crucial water supply source entirely. Section 5. Fighting back with solutions. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. There is a massive push to turn this around. At the national level, we're seeing some major structural interventions. The Indian government completely reorganized its water management strategy, combining overlapping departments to create a unified Jal Shakti ministry to handle the water crisis holistically. They've launched the super ambitious Piped Water for All by 2024 initiative. Plus, we're seeing the implementation of advanced technologies, like a big push for coastal desalination plants, similar to the methods successfully used in Israel to turn seawater into fresh drinking water for coastal cities, like Chennai. But since agriculture accounts for 89% of groundwater use, changing how we farm is absolutely essential. The micro-irrigation revolution is doing exactly that. By abandoning those traditional flooding methods and implementing modern drip technology, farmers can supply water precisely based on the soil's actual moisture levels. This drastically cuts down water waste. And with government support, it's actually working. Drip irrigation has expanded from covering just 40 hectares back in the 1960s to over 351,000 hectares today. That's a real game changer. Then you have the incredible power of non-governmental organizations. 4 billion? That is the 4 billion liters of water harvested annually by the Jal Bhagirathi Foundation. They are operating right in the harsh desert terrains of Rajasthan, and they've revived over 2,000 traditional water harvesting structures across hundreds of villages, literally turning barren lands back into reclaimed oases. But, you don't need to be a massive organization or a government entity to make a difference. Grassroots action is incredibly effective. In Bangalore, local citizen initiatives launched campaigns to dig up to 1 million recharging wells. By simply connecting funnels to the ground, regular folks are working to capture the rainwater that currently just washes away. They're aiming to harvest up to 60% of the rainfall and direct it straight back into those depleting underground aquifers. Which leaves us with this final thought. We've seen the stark reality. By 2030, demand is projected to double the supply. The solutions we've looked at, from sweeping government ministries to everyday citizens digging wells in Bangalore, are incredibly promising, but the clock is absolutely ticking. So the big question remains, will we act fast enough to catch the rain, or will the wells run completely dry? Thank you so much for exploring this vital topic with me on This Explainer. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.